chcela by som privítať pána doktora Tychtla z Európskej komisie, ktorý je mužom programu Európa pre občanov. Je to grantový program, ktorý poskytuje podporu projektom, ako je tento priamo, nie cez sprostredkovanie cez slovenskú vládu a iné slovenské inštitúcie. A povolaním je a kvalifikáciou nie je úradník, ale sociológ a historik. Nech sa páči, pán Tychtl.
Dobrý večer. Já vidím, že většina z vás nemá sluchátka, tak nevím, jestli je to proto, že jste si je zapomněli, anebo proto, že mluvíte většinou slovensky, nebo česky, nebo jiným jazykem. Tak já bych začal, protože jsme mluvili o identitě a o tom, jak máme různé kulturní zázemí a naše identita je složená z různých identit, tak bych začal mluvit krátce česky a potom bych přešel do angličtiny, protože jsem si připravil tu svou prezentaci v angličtině. Chtěl bych poděkovat Martě Šimečkové a Středoevropskému fóru za to, že mě pozvali a že mám příležitost tady krátce mluvit. Jak víte, nebo možná nevíte, to Středoevropské fórum je taky částečně financované právě programem, který zastupuji, programem Evropa pro občany. To je jeden z finančních programů Evropské komise. Okay. Já, když jsem si připravoval tu prezentaci, tak jsem přemýšlel, o čem budu mluvit. No. A teď přejdu do angličtiny. So, when I was preparing my presentation, I was thinking what to talk about, and it's always a bit awkward because you talk after a panel of experts, panel of people who come from academia or they come from the world of arts, and I come from the world of the European Commission of what is associated with as a bureaucracy. But also, I'm here speaking in my capacity as somebody who works in the European Commission, but I'm speaking here also as somebody who grew up in this part of Europe, who is from Prague, who is not far from Bratislava, who participated in the 1989 in the changes, the revolution that took place here in Czechoslovakia, and I was always thinking about my identity. I think as many people in this part of Europe think about their identity. And I was also trying to make sense of my past a little bit. So this is something that is not only my profession, but it's also my passion. It's something that, you know, I follow in my normal life. And when I was preparing this presentation, I was thinking, so what do I talk about? And then I was a little bit afraid that I talk about something that is not connected so much to the theme of this panel, maybe, and the previous panel. And now I'm a little bit afraid that everything that I wanted to say actually has been said by the previous panel. That there are many things that I wanted to touch upon that have been discussed. But the main theme of my presentation today is forgetting and understanding. Yeah? So the program and what we're trying to do is to look at the European memory and the participation, the engagement, the citizenship. So the citizenship in a form of citizens' action, if you want. And so I'm borrowing this phrase from Tony Judd. You might know the late historian Tony Judd, who said the problem with history as we have it today is that we have this challenge, and the challenge is that we might forget before we understand. Yeah? So my presentation today is built a little bit around the theme forgetting and understanding. Yeah? And what I would like to do at the beginning, I would like to show you very briefly something that I will explain how it fits into this concept of forgetting and understanding. So. I have to use my glasses to exit the screen. Okay, so what do we have here? So we have a film. You can guess what it is. Well, I'll tell you. It's a family film that was made in the 1930s. Yeah? So this is a film that was made at the end of the 1930s, at the beginning of war. Who is on the film? We know that. Yeah? What I would also like to say that these pieces of information that I will briefly explain, they come together, but they exist separately. So all these pieces of information, they existed in different parts of different archives. Film existed in different archives, the photographs and so, and it wasn't really clear how they linked together. Yeah? What is their meaning? What would they represent? So we know that on the picture there are children, Nina and Petr Lederer. It's a family from the Czech part of Czechoslovakia. There are Jewish children. Now, what we know as well is that we have a picture. I mean, it's probably not a very good reflection of the picture, but if you would look closer, you see that there is writing on the picture that says Nina Ledererová, a second group. So this picture is from the 1942, probably, or after 1942, and this is when Nina and Petr and the whole family, they were already in Theresienstadt. 1942, they were deported in Theresienstadt, and you might also know about the Jewish children in Theresienstadt. They were not supposed to have any formal education. The formal education was forbidden. The only way they could entertain themselves was to draw pictures. So this was an allowed activity to draw pictures. So there were many pictures that were drawn by the children in Theresienstadt. They survived the war because they were found in the attic of one of the barracks where the people were housed. And you can see that these pictures, they represent the childhood memories of before the war. Now, we have a second picture here. This is a famous picture which has been also published in a book called There Are No Butterflies in Theresienstadt. And this picture represents, there's different interpretations, but this picture represents Nina and her brother during the family holiday. In the book, it's called The Girl is Looking Out of the Window. And then we have one of the last pictures that was drawn by Nina. Yeah? This picture is from 1944. Okay, you probably don't see it very well. But you can see that this is not a colored picture. It's a black and white picture. The date is the 9th of May, 1944. And it would be very interesting to make an interpretation of that picture. But when I look at it, there's something striking, and I think that's the middle part of the picture that looks like a railway. Yeah? And again, we can just speculate why is that, or is that really the case? And this is finally the last picture that I wanted to show you. And this is a list of people who were transported to Auschwitz 6 days later, on the 15th of May 1944. And again, the picture probably is not such a good quality. But again, if you look closer, you would see that the name of the whole family is there. And we also know what happened to the family. We know that they perished in Auschwitz, under what situation and so. So now, coming back to my forgetting and understanding, we can see these pieces of information that separately, they make no sense. But if we put them together, they make a lot of sense. Yeah? And now, I know we spoke about trauma, nostalgia, so I don't want to cause you any trauma. That's not my intention. But when I was preparing this presentation, and this was a week ago, so it's nothing to do, and I didn't expect anything that's happening now. So when I was preparing this presentation, I came across a quote by Thomas Mann, and I don't know if you were here last year, but you might remember that I was also quoting Thomas Mann, so it's almost becoming a tradition. And now Thomas Mann writes on the 22nd of December 1932. He's writing to his friend, another writer, Hermann Hesse. So I quote now, "I believe we have turned the corner. We seem to be past the peak of insanity." And then there's another quote from Frankfurter Zeitung on the 1st of January 1933 with a headline, "Land in Sight." So the first point I want to make here is put into the context what we've seen at the beginning, that even the people who had a remarkable foresight, such as Thomas Mann, who was probably one of the first people who really understood what was happening, were not able to comprehend still at the end of 1932 the approaching tragedy and its enormity. So when we talk about the past and the memory, there's always this aspect we fail to anticipate what might happen. Now, the question of memory and, in a way, identity, and I think also what we're facing today is when I deal with the European memory, I always come across this incredible loss. So we can the loss here in the terms of the family life, but we see also an enormous loss in terms of the cultures, the diversity that we had. We spoke about the diversity as being, now something that will probably happen again. But if you talk especially about Central Europe, we see also here in Bratislava and other places that these are cities, these are places where all this diversity was lost to a large extent. So you have this incredible loss, I would say. And the loss which is followed by a certain emptiness, the emptiness and forgetting. Forgetting in terms of not really remembering, the memory is lost. The people are gone, the families are gone, the architecture is gone, their houses are left, their houses are empty, they disappear, or they fell apart, the houses of prayer, they raise to ground, or they disappear as well. So there is this, I think, the feeling of emptiness, as I can see. But I think the problem is that the emptiness doesn't become a vacuum. Because when you have a vacuum, then I think you have a very good ground for a lot of fantasies and lots of things that can replace the memory. So what I think is important is that we don't accept this loss of the memory, but we try to come with a certain understanding, and understanding that is always very difficult and very complex. We had also the example here from Bulgaria, the colleague from Bulgaria who was saying, well, Bulgaria was the only country in Europe, or one of the only countries, that saved the Jews during the war, and we should be proud of that, and we should somehow promote that. That's true, but it's not the whole truth. The truth is also that the parts of Europe that were occupied by Bulgaria, the Jews were deported by the Bulgarian administration and the Bulgarian army. So it's not black and white story. So when we come to the memory, it's never black and white. That's the problem. It's very complex. So I think really coming into terms with the memory and trying to understand what happened, we have to understand that complexity, and that is difficult, and that is not what is always comfortable. And so I think, and that we also have discussed in the previous panel, that the real understanding is sometimes replaced by nostalgia or self-pity. So we have this, either nostalgia, it was all very great, it was very good, nothing happened to us, and the others we really don't, we don't know about them so much, or we've forgotten about them. Or is it self-pity? It happened to us, and we had to suffer this, but we don't really kind of have an empathy with what happened to the others. So my plea is for understanding that is put in a context of also current Europe and what is happening in Europe today. We talk also about the values, and sometimes we have the understanding that if there are no, we either have values or we have no values, But I would say it's important what kind of values we have, because of course there are values that led to this, what I just described at the beginning, And these values, they came not without a cultural reference in a society. They resonated with the society at the time. And that's also part of the understanding that we have to understand why these values, such, just to name few, like patriotism, hard work, and family life, which we had in France during the occupation, which the liberté, égalité, and fraternité was replaced by the famille, travail, patrie. So, it was another set of values. So we have to understand how this was possible and how it did affect the society and how it affect us and define us today. Now, I think, and these are the two last points that I would like to make. The danger is that we will think we have not forgotten and we understood. And that, I think, would lead to a certain apathy that can then give rise to new possible dangers. And here I would like to finish with the quote from Noam Chomsky that again I chose already some time ago. And he says, as long as the general population is passive, apathetic, diverted to consumerism or hatred of the vulnerable, then the powerful can do as they please. And those who survive will be left to contemplate the outcome. So with this thought, I would like to thank you for your attention and wish you good rest of the Central European Forum. Thank you.